Welcome dear grade 12 students to this video, which is about the writing of module 3b, page 57. There are two objectives for today's video. The first one is that we are going to analyze the components of a model descriptive paragraph, and the second objective is that you are going to write a descriptive paragraph about a place worth visiting in Qatar. Have you ever visited any of these places before? I think that all of you know this place for sure, right? Generally speaking, what makes a place worth visiting? Why should we visit certain place? Some of you may say that a place can be worth visiting because of its outstanding beauty, because it's very beautiful. For example, the Antelope Canyon in Arizona, or the Victoria Falls. These are called waterfalls. Victoria Falls in Zambia and Zimbabwe. Others may say that a place can be worth visiting because of its historical importance, like the Acropolis in Greece, this one, and the Palmyra site in Syria, and the Al-Zubarah fort in Qatar. In addition, a place can be worth visiting for the activities that can be done there. For instance, mountain climbing in Nepal and China. Another question, do you enjoy reading descriptions of places in general? Some people enjoy reading a description of a place so as to take a virtual tour of the place. A virtual tour is not real tour, but it is nearly the same tour as in reality. So some people enjoy reading a description of a place and activate their imagination about that place. However, others may prefer to watch a documentary or even experience the place firsthand. It means to visit the place directly. Okay, let's discuss this question. What can make a description of a place interesting? What do you think about this question? What can make a description of a place interesting? Okay, let's take this model answer. We can make a description of a place interesting by using interesting details that appeal to the reader's senses, the reader's five senses. I mean, hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting. And by portraying life in that place to help the reader create a sense of the place. Also, we can make a description of a place interesting by using colorful and descriptive language. And this is what we are going to study right now. Please follow. When you write a descriptive paragraph, please remember to use vivid and colorful language to stimulate the reader's imagination. The first and foremost important thing to use when writing a descriptive paragraph is to use a descriptive language, a vivid and colorful language. Let's take this example. I took a trip to the mountains. What do you think about this example? It's very plain, very simple, very direct. There is no vividness, there is no life in this sentence. But if you compare it to the next one, I took a trip to the snow-capped peaks of the Canadian Rocky Mountains. So the writer did not go directly to the mountains like what he did in the first example. No, he used many pre-modifiers, many adjectives, compound adjectives before the mountains to add more color and more vividness to the sentence and to help the reader visualize a picture about the mountains. So the vivid language consists of the descriptive adjectives that bring your experience to life. Okay, one thing else, you should use strong and powerful adjectives for descriptive accuracy. You should use strong and powerful adjectives. This is what we are going to study in the next slide. Following, we are going to discuss also the figures of speech. You should use figures of speech such as similes and metaphors so as to help your descriptions come alive. We've just agreed that to write a perfect descriptive paragraph, you need to use strong and powerful adjectives. And to study this big title, let's compare between strong adjectives and weak adjectives. Strong adjectives have an extreme meaning. They have the greatest degree of the meaning, the maximum of this meaning. So this is why we call them non-gradable. Non-gradable means that they do not take an intensifier like very before them. When you say I'm freezing, there is no need to say I'm very freezing, because freezing itself is a strong adjective and it has carried the maximum degree, the greatest degree of the adjective freezing, and that's it. On the other hand, weak adjectives are gradable, so we can use many intensifiers before the adjective cold. You can say it's a little cold, it's rather cold, it's very cold, it's extremely cold. This expression, extremely cold, equals freezing. But to form a strong adjective out of a weak adjective, the writer here has used the adverb extremely out of the adjective extreme, right? Let's apply this on these weak adjectives. I invite you to use your dictionary to look for the strong versions, the strong adjectives, instead of these weaker ones. Okay, take your time, take 2 or 3 minutes, and once you have finished, please follow. Done? Okay, now, to write a descriptive paragraph, do not use weak adjectives like these. Weak adjectives do not add vividness and life to your paragraph. Instead, you have to use the stronger versions of them. Instead of saying good, say wonderful, fantastic, excellent. Instead of using big, you use huge, gigantic, giant, enormous. Instead of using funny, use hilarious. Instead of hungry, say starving. Instead of using interesting, fascinating. Instead of using old, you use ancient. Instead of using tired, you use exhausted. Have you got the idea? Kindly, dear student, open your student book, page 57. Read the first part of the given passage and answer question number 1, which is match the highlighted adjectives, these 3 adjectives, with their synonyms down there. So pause, take your time, and then come back to follow and take the feedback. Massive means your answer, please. Very big, right? How about towering? Towering means very high. Good. How about breathtaking? Breathtaking means very impressive. Good. The writer is talking about the island of Santorini. He says that it is located in the clear blue waters of the southern Aegean Sea. The island of Santorini is a feast for the senses. Pay attention to this underlined part, because there is a figure of speech right here, and we are going to discuss figures of speech after a while. But firstly, pay attention to the fact that he said that the island of Santorini is a feast directly. He didn't say the island is like a feast. Okay, the island is actually the result of a massive volcanic eruption or explosion which took place some 3,500 years ago. That eruption left the island with towering cliffs. Cliffs means rock faces, so these are cliffs. These cliffs are overlooking, they are having a view over the sea and the now inactive volcano. It means that they are overlooking the sea and the volcano, which is now inactive, but the writer here inverted, he brought before, he inverted the adjectival relative clause and he cancelled the relative pronoun, and the result here is only an adjective phrase, the now inactive volcano. Along the sides of these cliffs are the island's charming, which means attractive, white houses. Some of these white houses hanging dramatically over the edge. From here, visitors can admire breathtaking views of the surrounding area, and in the evenings, amazing sunsets as the sun drops like. Now he is using like. He didn't use it, as I told you before, with this expression right here. He didn't say here that the sun is a ball of fire dropping into the sea, but he said the sun drops like a ball of fire into the sea and the sky turns orange, yellow, purple and red. Now he is addressing one of the five senses. He is addressing seeing. That's right. Okay, let's continue. Would you kindly continue your reading, matching the highlighted words with their synonyms down there? Please pause, and once you have finished, please let's check your answer. Countless means your answer, please. Yeah, very many, right. How about delicious? Very tasty, right. Ancient undoubtedly means very old. Okay, here the writer begins this part by portraying a background picture that consists of place, the towns of Santorini, time, evening, and the weather. So he says, in the towns of Santorini, with their white houses, in the cool of the evening, what happens there? Bits of conversation in various languages can be heard. He is addressing another sense, which is hearing, as the countless visitors to the island stroll or walk in a leisurely way along the narrow streets. The delicious smell of local dishes fills the air, inviting the hungry. The question is, can the smell invite the hungry? Smell is an abstract noun, and the idea of invitation is relevant to human beings. Only humans can invite others. This is a figurative expression and it is called personification. In this figurative expression, he gave a characteristic of humans to something abstract. This is called personification. Okay. Now the smell invites the hungry to sit outdoors and enjoy their meal under the blanket of stars. He didn't say that the stars are like a blanket. He said that they are sitting under the blanket of stars. Remember, we are going to discuss the figures of speech in the coming slide. Okay, the stars are shining in the night sky. During the day, Santorini's stunning beaches, see how extreme and powerful this adjective is, famous for their natural beauty, and red or black sands, using colors here. Again, he is addressing the sense of seeing. These beaches attract those who want to relax under the sun, and the visitors traveling further into the island are able to admire the ruins of Santorini's ancient Minoan civilization, like this monument over here. Indeed, the Minoan civilization goes back to the Bronze Age of civilization in the 16th century BC, before Christ, or AD, Anno Domini, whichever you choose. Okay. Now let's study the figures of speech in the underlined parts of the text with two more examples. Can you see right here, like and as? When we use like and as in expressions like the sun drops like a ball of fire, stars are like a blanket, he is as stable as a mountain, this is called simile. But when we remove this as and like, we are talking about a metaphor. So addressing many senses, it's a feast for the senses. He didn't say it's like a feast for the senses. Under the blanket of stars, he could have said stars are like a blanket. In this case, it would have been a simile. Shakespeare once said, all the world is a stage. He didn't say all the world is like a stage, right? So the simile is a figure of speech that directly compares two things using like or as. When we compare two things without using like or as, this is a metaphor. So a metaphor is a word or phrase when a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. So we cannot literally say that the stars are a blanket. This is a metaphor. The comparison here is implicit. Have you got it? Now this is your turn. Using vivid language, descriptive adjectives, figures of speech like similes, metaphors, personifications, onomatopoeia, etc., and addressing as many of the reader's senses as possible, please try to write a descriptive paragraph about a place worth visiting in Qatar. Can you give it a try? Here you are, a suggested model describing Doha. I'm going to highlight things quickly. When the writer here says that Doha is a precious diamond, this is a metaphor. When he uses many adjectives like old, wooden, and fishing to describe a modified noun, the boats, this is called multiple pre-modification. When he says that boats are like resting seabirds, this is simile. When he uses a word like stunning, this adjective is an extreme or powerful adjective. When he says that the sea is a rainbow-colored garden, this is also a metaphoric expression. When the writer uses two opposite things side by side, like the two words of tradition and modernity, old and new, figuratively, this is called juxtaposition. You can also choose to write about Doha, and then you compare your own writing to this given model to see how perfect your writing is. Thank you so much for watching this video, which will be found on Microsoft Teams.